Welcome to How Do They Afford That, the podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and the co-host of the podcast Fear and Greed Business News. As always, I'm with financial planner Canna Campbell, founder of Sugar Mama TV, the financial literacy platform that is just about everywhere that it is possible to be. YouTube, podcasts, books, Instagram, threads, TikTok, keynote speeches, and more. Hello, Canna.
How are you?
I am well, though we are approaching back to school.
Oh, I'm feeling a bit exhausted.
And it is an expensive time of year. It really is. There are a million things to buy.
It's so overwhelming.
You've got uniforms, you've got shoes, you've got books, and you've got technology. So today, we are going to look at how to save a little bit of money and send the kids back to school without sending yourself broke. Why is this time of year, the back-to-school season, so financially overwhelming for families?
Well, it's the perfect storm. Perfect storm expenses. You're coming off the back, or we're all coming off the back of Christmas, holiday season. There may even be a bit of a hangover from, the Black Friday sales. And we're being hit with this new list of purchases. And it's a long list, uniforms, shoes, sneakers, sporting equipment, books, technology. It just goes on. And then you've got the pressure deadline. So, nothing like deciding you need to get some school shoes and going to your local school shoe shop and seeing the mass of parents all stressing, on a hot, humid summer's day, where the pressure to get it right, to make sure that they turn up to school in their first day with absolutely everything they need in their school backpack. It's a huge amount of pressure, and throw in some unexpected costs, like, certain supplies that they need for an extracurricular activity, like a musical instrument.
Oh, yeah. I had not considered that. Those things are expensive.
Really expensive. And then if you want to go and rent them, they may not be available. These can really throw you off guard.
Yeah. I'm assuming, again, making an assumption here, that the best way, because we know that the return to school is coming, so you budget ahead of time, if that is possible. And I say that knowing that we have not done that ourselves. So I'm saying you should do that. Don't listen to what I've done.
So look, the best thing is to start early, as you said. Easier said than done, especially when you're so busy, and you've got more than one child, you've got to think of everyone's different needs. And, I know my son has a very different list to what my daughter has, who's starting her first year of school this year. So, and also think if we start early, we can also make the most of the sales, the Boxing Day sales, and have a list, a checklist. So write down everything you need, separating it from must-haves versus would like to have. My kids want, brand new pens and pencil cases, even though we've got probably 50 of them already at home. So it is a good also opportunity to include the children as well. But it also gives you a sense of order because you can just refer to the list. And
a lot of schools, they provide a list, don't they, of what you need. I mean, it is the standard kind of back-to-school list. And then you kind of almost need to sit down and cross-check it with what you already have.
Yes, and
from
that was
last
my
year.
next point, which you just stole from me.
I'm sorry.
I just habit of yours.
I have started doing this a lot, haven't I? It's because now we've been doing this show for so long that I feel like in some cases, oh no, this is dangerous, isn't it? I feel like in some cases that I almost know what you're about to say.
I don't know what you're going to say.
I was not going to say that just then. I was about to say something else, almost that I know this almost better than you do. And then I realised that is factually inaccurate. And you were displeased with me a few weeks back when I said that I was pretty much just a de facto financial planner now from having spent so much time in the studio with you. The eyebrow went up and the forehead was furrowed and like, oh, goodness me, the displeasure in the studio.
Well, stop stealing and we don't have that issue.
All right. So please just go on.
Talk of stealing. What can you steal from the office? Just kidding. I'm joking. For stationery. Just kidding. That was do not go and steal from the office if your kids need pens and pencils. But obviously, look at what you've already got at home. The arts and crafts often will have all the highlighters and rulers and, scissors and things that you need. And then obviously set a budget, a realistic budget, how much you want to spend on uniforms, books, supplies, tech, sporting equipment, all those things. And then as you're buying those things, go, okay, all right, we've already spent $120 on 2 pairs of school shoes, or, school shoes and gym shoes. So keep a running tab so that you know exactly what you're spending, and this also helps avoid overspending as well.
Let's talk about uniforms, shall we? Because uniforms, they're the one thing that you really can't avoid generally. And they are really, really expensive often if you buy them en masse as well.
Well, not necessarily. So, buy wisely. So, for example, my kids thrash their shoes.
Yeah.
So I will actually spend a bit more on better quality shoes, and they last so much longer. And then I'll know, okay, I will skimp on socks. And often I will say you don't have to buy everything from the school. And this is actually a tip I'm stealing from you. Game, set, match, where you can actually go to stores like Big W and Best and Less and Kmart and Target and buy the school socks there and buy the school pants there, the school skirt there.
Anything that doesn't have the school logo on it,
emblem, you
can get it elsewhere. Get it somewhere cheaper.
Much cheaper. And then, there's obviously the secondhand clothing shop, which I am a big fan of. I will stock up there. And then obviously there's the sales, but also what I will do is with my children is I don't buy it all at once. Kids grow and then they have growth spurts. So don't go and buy a year's worth of clothes at the beginning of the year. Think about, okay, well, hang on, let me just get the summer stuff or whatever the temperature is at the time that's appropriate now. And then later in the year, we'll buy the winter stuff or when the temperature starts to change, because they may have had a growth spurt. So you go and be super organized and buy everything. It may not fit them, or do what I've done in the past is bought it too big and it still doesn't. They haven't had that growth spurt enough to actually fit them. And by the time it does fit them, it's warm again. So buy what you need for the short term to get you through for the next 3 months and to help stagger those expenses and mix the old with the new. Hand-me-downs are great. And mix up, for example, what can be reused throughout the year as well. So keeping things in good condition.
I really like that idea of mixing it up so that you might buy 1 or 2 kind of new items from the uniform shop at school, and the others you might buy some secondhand ones. And if it's school photo day, you send them in the brand new nice one, and the rest of the time just go for the secondhand.
And then label everything with their name, because everything gets lost. The amount of lunch boxes, water bottles,
hats,
jumpers. Oh my gosh, hats.
Hats are just they're just currency at school. They just get passed around, don't they?
And they're
just
like frisbee across the playground, and there you'll never see it again.
It's extraordinary. What about though? I mean, that all makes sense, particularly kind of when we are dealing with things like uniforms and stationery and books and things. Like you can often get secondhand for a lot of those things, and relatively inexpensive compared to what I'm about to talk about, which is technology. And when you have requirements for school that might be, say, a laptop or a calculator, these things, I don't know whether they still require you to buy a calculator. Now, I remember in high school we had to buy the
certain Casio one or something.
Yeah, indeed. And everyone had the same one. Are there strategies to save on tech purchases like these?
Definitely. So shopping sales, and then also shopping on those cashback websites like Cash Rewards and Shopback, so you're at least getting some money back.
Yep.
Officeworks is brilliant. They'll match anywhere else, and sometimes they'll even beat it as well. If you're a business. Yes.
Oh, wow.
And then I think if you show you've got an ABN, you might be able to get a further discount. But then also buying refurbished or secondhand tech, which you can actually do through Amazon as well. You're buying a used iPad that's been fixed, looks almost brand new, and you're buying it for a significant discount. And that's also great for children that do tend to lose things, or things tend to get broken, or they're going to outgrow it. That's something I would highly recommend, and it's what I've done with my kids as well. And then obviously looking at other brands. Stephen Fennick did a brilliant episode on what brands to potentially go for to get better value for money.
I was going to mention this because this was last year that he spoke to us, and we split it into 2 episodes because there was so much to cover. And in the second of the 2 episodes, we talked about laptops and about this idea that you do not need to necessarily have a MacBook Pro. You don't necessarily need the top of the line computer, that there is a whole bunch of different brands out there that might cost half the price of, say, of a MacBook, or less then. And depending on what the requirements are, that you might be able to get away with something that is of good quality. This is still good quality technology, and you are paying brand new half or less.
Yeah.
So go and listen to that one. It's definitely, if you search through our playlist, search through the back catalogue of episodes with Stephen Fennick. It is the ultimate guide to affordable technology, I believe. Part 2 is the tip. We'll take a quick break in a second, but I just wanted to ask first about multiple children. If you've got more than one kid in the household, it is just prohibitively expensive, isn't it? Oh. And yes, hand-me-downs certainly help, but still, it is just an expensive time of year.
It is. Look, hand-me-downs, well, I've got a son and then 2 girls, and he's did it at a different public school my daughter's going to go to. So the hand-me-downs, unfortunately, doesn't work in our household this year. Maybe when my youngest goes, it will obviously help. But hand-me-downs obviously are great. But, think of the community. Like, I've got friends whose kids go to the same school as my son, and I let them know when I've got a bunch of stuff that Rocco's outgrown, I'll put it up in a bag and put it on their front doorstep. And, when things do go missing or get swapped or lost or stolen, it's not the end of the world because you've got a bag of T-shirts or shorts or skirts that you can quickly grab and go, and your child's not turning up to school missing items, and that takes off the stress and pressure, for children going to school, which, is filled with so many mixed emotions. And, things like buying in bulk, with other families is a great idea. If there's something you need, speak to your friends and go, I found this resource, but we need to buy a minimum of 10 or a minimum of 15. Find the other parents that are in the same boat.
That's a great idea. So you're forming a co-op.
Exactly.
Oh, it's a cult, a school cult.
Yeah.
I love this. All right, quick break. We'll come back and want to talk then about kind of involving kids in the process, some of the long-term habits, and also how to approach some of those big recurring costs like school fees and how to kind of factor those into the family budget. We'll be back in a sec. Canna, we are talking about heading back to school and ways to make it a little bit more affordable or just to manage the cost, because a lot of the costs are actually unavoidable, like school fees, for instance. There's really no way around it. If you are sending your child to a school a private school, for instance, where there are private school fees to pay, but even to public schools, there are certain fees that you do need to pay throughout the year that are technically voluntary contributions, but it's obviously better if you can pay those and do your bit to help out. How do you manage those in a budget-friendly way?
So if you're on a tight budget, what I recommend you do is open up a separate savings account and nickname it school expenses, so that you know what the purpose behind that account and don't get distracted or tempted to go and blow it. And put a little bit in that account each week or each day or whatever you can afford, so that you can help build up and take off the stress and pressure. Then I'd also recommend, especially for those extracurricular activities, because they can be, the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's amazing, different places, different activities and different costs. So, for example, we were looking at some swimming lessons. When I shopped around for swimming lessons, I was blown away by how they range in prices from different age groups. And I saved a fortune. I think I saved about $300 by switching my children's swimming lessons, or 2 of them, to a different location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was quite blown away by the difference in prices. But then my son's age group was actually very competitive where he was. So definitely shop around. And also think about like the logistics of your days, because obviously if you've got to leave work, the cost of that, or transport or petrol, driving kids around, that also comes into it as well. And that's obviously, again, coming back to the community. Can you share the load?
Yeah.
We'll do pick off, you do drop off, having the snacks in the car and things like ready to go. But then also things like payment plans. Some schools may offer an installment plan available to help ease the financial burden. And instead of getting hit with a quarterly bill, they might allow you to pay monthly or fortnightly. If you don't ask, you don't know. And, seeing what options are available, get on the phone, speak to the school, explain your situation and see what do you have in place.
I like those. I mean, that's a great idea, but I really like those tips about the extracurricular activities like swimming and those that you can actually shop around.
Yeah.
You're not just necessarily being funneled into one option for these things. Is that one of the mistakes then? Because I wanted to talk to you about the mistakes that parents make in the back to school shopping. And I'm assuming one of them is assuming that there is no other option, that you can't shop around when you can.
Yeah. I'd say leaving it to last minute is the worst thing you can do.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the amount of parents that, and I will admit, I am a leave it last minute type of person, but the amount of parents you see, and I use that in that example of buying school shoes, it is stressful. There are so many people around you. Then there's, shoes have sold out in that particular size. The drama it causes and the anxiety it causes, kids thinking, I'm not going to have my school shoes ready, for my first day of school. You just don't do it yourself. So not being organized, leaving it to last minute, shopping without a list it leads to those impulses, purchases, overspending, definitely. Ignoring the sales. Boxing Day sales is a great opportunity to buy the things that you know you're going to need, and especially those expensive things like shoes.
Yep.
And having a good pair of shoes that are going to last all year. And then obviously prioritizing the wrong brands, like just going, well, we'll buy you the most expensive top of the range because that will then mean it's good quality. Not necessarily the case. Do your research. So there are a lot of things you can do innocently that just make it so much harder and so much more expensive for yourself.
And if you leave it to the last minute, you also lose your credibility then when you are getting cranky at your kids for leaving their assignments and things to the last minute.
I hadn't thought about that.
And you want to be able to be kind of very judgmental and very kind of self-righteous about this, knowing that you were, in fact, not leaving their return to school to the last minute. It's all about credibility as a parent.
It is.
The opportunity is here, isn't it, to teach kids about money during the back-to-school process. How do you do that in a way that doesn't just make everyone cranky?
So include your kids.
Yeah.
Like, make it fun. The opportunity to go to school is a blessing. This is where you are going to be, and they're going to learn so many obvious skills, but life skills. They're going to make new friends. So get on board with it. Get excited for them. Not having to pay for daycare anymore. That's also a great thing, part of the excitement of kids going to school. So, doing the budget with kids. With Apple and Rocco, we'll be doing a list together and we'll be going to Officeworks with a set fee, and we have to work out how to get the most amount of value. So I'm not going to do it online. I'm actually going to take them with me because I need them to see and learn and understand the difference between, yes, you want every single Posca pen under the sun, but okay, you need highlighters is what the list says. Maybe we can think about that as a part of your birthday present. So
it's quite fun, actually.
I quite like a trip to Officeworks too. There's a bit of me in this as well.
And when you've got you say, all right, guys, it becomes a game. Like, we've got X amount to spend here. We cannot spend any more. We need to find a way to make this fit.
Exactly. And
it's fun.
And showing them, you can buy a packet. If you buy a biro pen, it's like $4.50. But you can buy packets of biros for like $8, and there's like 7 different biros in there. So spending time showing the kids, don't leave it last minute. Allow the time to go through the store and letting them get excited. I remember as a child getting my new pencil case and the pens and getting it all neatly organized. I felt so inspired and motivated and empowered. Allow this moment. Don't be a mad rush, panic, hurry, filled with anxiety and stress and embarrassment, regret, and, on a hot summer's day. This is exciting. And Officeworks is open till very late, I might add, so it can be an evening activity.
There's a risk that families will be overwhelmed by this, aren't there? There is support out there for back to school. And I'm about to do this again, aren't I, where I accidentally steal something that you're probably about to talk about, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't know what you're going to say. But different states also have different things set up, financial assistance that might help cover some costs of extracurricular activities like swimming lessons, sport, creative activities as well. And that if you just look on the state government website, depending on where you are, and you will see the grants and the fee assistance that is available. Were you about to say that?
Yes, I was. All the words out of my mouth, but that's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
You did a brilliant job of it. And
thank you.
Active Kids vouchers, creative kids vouchers, transport and travel to school assistance. There's so many different things. And obviously it varies from state to state, but it is worth jumping online and seeing what you're entitled to. And of course, then there's, going to the school and looking at things like scholarships or fee waivers or discounts for families in need or discounts for when you've got more than 2 children at the school.
All right, let's bring it all the way back to where we started, and we were talking about budgeting. Is that the best way, if we are looking to the future, long-term habits that we should be building, a family can adopt to make the return to school perhaps a little bit less stressful, a little bit more affordable? Does it all come down to starting early, building your budget, putting it all together and making sure you're just setting aside a bit of money to make sure that when you get round to January, there isn't a scramble financially and just physically trying to get to the shops?
Yeah, I would say that. And, I also would suggest that, you declutter your home and look at what you can reuse. You have to buy a lunchbox. Well, hang on, there might be, some Tupperware containers that will be just as sufficient. Or you might actually have a packet of coloured pens, so you don't need to go and buy a whole new packet of coloured pens. Look around and see what you've got and, shop off the season. So you might find that it's better to stock up on a winter uniform, potentially in summertime when it's on sale. And, look at, as I said, that separate savings fund for the kids. Sit it up with them. An online savings account, nickname it with them and sit down. And it doesn't need to be a financial headache. This actually can be a really fun, creative opportunity to also help your children feel organised, see what it's like to be organised, what being organised actually involves, as well as teaching them a little bit about being sensible with money along the way.
All right, so we are involving kids, we are planning ahead, we are budgeting, we are setting aside a bit of money throughout the year. We are kind of being smart about the way that we are shopping. We are looking at secondhand. We are looking at other brands that are perhaps more affordable, particularly when it comes to technology. When it comes to the extracurricular activities, we're shopping around, seeing what else is available, and we are looking at the assistance that's available through state governments, and also just talking directly to our schools and seeing what kind of payment plans are available or what's going to be required, because the more you know in advance, the more you can plan ahead. It is still a stressful and expensive time though, isn't it? I don't want to finish on a downer, but it is, right?
It can be overwhelming, but it's like sit down and make a list, and that will immediately make you feel better.
I love that image though of little Canna kind of getting all of her your pencils and everything. And did you do
contact
on it? Oh yes, and did you get to then put pictures and everything in it as well?
I'd cut out things and make my books look so pretty, and I'm so motivated.
And when you were labelling pencils and things, did you
shave the
tip of the end and then write
my name? Yes, I did all those daggy dorky things.
It's so much fun. And so last year, I remember at the start of the year, I'm like, that's it. It's finally my turn to do that. And so I sat down and I was shaving the tips of the pencils off in order to write kind of Thompson on them. It was great fun. You are right. It's actually an exciting time of year.
And this is a great opportunity to also show children how to be organised, as I said, being organised, doing things in advance, thinking, planning mindfully. You're giving them life skills.
How do we find you if we want more information?
Best place is always Instagram at Sugar Mama TV.
Did you forget for a second where you are located?
I have 2 Instagram accounts. I have Canna Campbell Official, where you can see the hot mess of my life as me trying to be organised, but actually quite often doing everything last minute.
All right. Well, you can hear me every day, not as a hot mess, just as a normal podcaster, with Sean Aylmer on Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. Thank you very much for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and the best thing you can do is tell somebody else, or better yet, send them specifically this episode and spread the word about How Do They Afford That? Thank you for your company. Join us again next week.